It was found in an area for authorized personnel only in the basement of a museum. It told us of the living conditions and abundance of the Neolithic era. The object resembled a type of volcanic rock. Difficult to discern what its original form was. It was found in a muddy pool of water. What was this object? The color had changed in the process of storing it. But at the time it was found, the color was that of bright straw. We could even see the parts where strands had come undone. This object, which was weaved in a structural form, was a mesh net from the Neolithic era. It was weaved with straw or grass and used to keep and store food. The Pibongli Neolithic site in Changneung, Gyeongsangnam-do Province shows us what life conditions were like during the Neolithic era. At the site, pits of unknown use were also found. There were 18 spaces that were sectioned off in a certain way. The size and depth were all different. What was the space used for? The clue lies in the living conditions during the Neolithic era. Acorns, wild walnuts, and pine cones were found in one of the pits. These spaces were in fact food storages during the Neolithic era. Stone grinding pestles and saddle querns were also found. "6,000 years ago, the people of the Neolithic era on the Korean peninsula were undergoing a surprising revolution in their lifestyle. They had begun to gather food and farm as they settled in one place, and stored any surplus agricultural products. They dried acorns and crushed them to cook food. It was now possible for the entire family to enjoy food together. But a question still remained. Something was found which could not possibly have come from the Pibongli site. The strange objects were shell mounds. It was the first time shell mounds were found inland, and it tells us that 6,000 years ago, this area used to be by the water. And seeing that there were oyster shells and clam shells, it was by the sea. The object that changed the lifestyles of the Neolithic people in a dramatic way was the production of earthenware. By making earthenware, they were now able to store food and boil it over a fire. An afternoon in the Neolithic era 6,000 years ago would have been idyllic and abundant, like this scene. Perhaps the Neolithic people were the first to enjoy good food and a good lifestyle. Where do we come from? And how did we end up where we are today? The lives of the earliest humankind who lived in the Korean peninsula during the Paleolithic and Neolithic era has transcended time to appear before us. Cheonggongli, Gyeonggi-do Province is a historical site that changed the map of world archaeology. In 1977, an Acheulean hand axe from 300,000 years ago was found here. The Acheulean hand axe is a type of chipped stone tool. It heightened functionality by sharpening both edges. The time periods of stone tools are divided according to how they were made. Let's take a look at how the tools transitioned. The earliest tool during the Paleolithic era was the chopper. It was simply made by breaking off a corner of a stone. Before the hand axe was discovered in Cheonggongli, it was believed that only choppers were used in East Asia. But due to the discovery of the hand axe in Cheonggongli, the world's history of archaeology had to be rewritten. Later came the tanged point, which was a more aggressive tool. The sharp stone pieces were attached to a stick and used as a spear. As people began to accumulate knowledge through experience, the Paleolithic people began to undergo change and new developments. Gunangul Cave in Danyang, Chungcheongbuk-do Province. Over 10,000 animal bone fragments were found here. Among the bears, monkeys, and tigers, most of the bones found belonged to deer. What was surprising was that the bones had marks that showed man-made cuts. Gunangul Cave could have been a slaughterhouse to butcher the animals caught by the Paleolithic people. How did the people of the Paleolithic era accept life and death 40,000 years ago? In 1982, perfectly preserved skeletal remains were found in a cave in Chungcheongbuk-do Province. It was the remains of a 5-year-old child, gender unknown and only 115 centimeters tall. It was named the Hungu child after the person who had discovered it. Anatomically, the skull of the child had the same features as modern-day people. This means that it was our direct ancestor. Looking closely, we can see that the forehead is similar to modern-day people. 40,000 years ago, the Hungu child died at the young age of 5. But there is a reason that this child from the Paleolithic era moves us so. The child had been lying on a stone slab, and surprisingly, chrysanthemum seeds were found on its chest. The flowers were probably laid down by its parents who mourned the death of their child. 40,000 years ago, people grieved over death and received comfort through flowers. The last ice age ended approximately 10,000 years ago. As the first humans on the Korean peninsula entered the Neolithic era, they experienced a revolutionary change in their lifestyle. At this 6,000-year-old Neolithic site, nut storages and tools to grind and crush them were found. There were also various forms of comb pattern pottery, which were made to store food and cook, and to make their lives more convenient. Unlike the Paleolithic people who roamed the earth in search of food, the Neolithic people settled in one place and began to farm, experiencing a comfortable and abundant life. They boiled shellfish and stored food. They made clothes and built houses. The first revolution in the history of mankind. It was one fine day in the Neolithic era.